Hey everybody, and welcome to another Cricut craft tutorial. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's totally free. Just hit the big red subscribe button. I put out new videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and I have the occasional bonus live video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use Waterslide decal paper. It's super easy to use and really fun. You do need a few supplies, and I'm going to use these on Acrylic Blank keychains, and we are going to make these really fun acrylic blanks using Waterslide. Hopefully you guys can see them. You'll just need a couple of supplies. I have broken down all your supplies, both in an Amazon list linked down in the description box below, and also the couple materials that I used from 651 Vinyl are also linked down below. So what you'll need is a UV light, some silicone mats, acrylic blanks, and you can use any kind that you want, any style, any shape, any size, glitter. You're going to need a silicone brush. I use a pin pen, and that is to remove the backing off of my acrylic blank. If you're going to use any kind of vinyl, you will need that. You'll need some UV resin, scissors, a bowl full of warm water, but don't get that until you're ready to do your Waterslide decal. You'll need Waterslide decal paper. This is what I use, and it works amazing. And last but not least, you are going to need some clear spray to seal your decals. I use the Rust-Oleum Triple Thick Glaze, and it works really well as well. And one last fun little item. This helps clean up your glitter, and I'll show you how to use it in the video, but it's a little desk vacuum, and I use this all the time, and I love it. So let's go over to Design Space so that I can show you how to set up your print then cut for your acrylic blanks. So over in Design Space, we first will need to upload our blanks, so the SVGs that actually go to your acrylic blanks. I'm using a scalloped circle and a snow globe or crystal ball, depending on what you want to do with it. So we're going to click on upload. We're going to upload an image and then click browse. You'll need to find the folder that you put it in, and I put all mine into my acrylic blanks folder right here. So we'll just start with the crystal ball because that's first on our list. Go ahead and click that and click save, and we'll come right back to that, but I'm going to upload both of these really quick because we're going to go ahead and just do two at once. That way we can save on some of our paper. Go back to your acrylic blanks, find your scalloped circle. I accidentally unzipped it twice, so I have two of them. I'll have to go back and delete one. So there are your two blanks. Go ahead and click save. Now I'm going to go ahead and click both of these and insert our image. This can take just a second, but don't worry, it's totally easy and just absolutely fine. So we'll start with the scalloped circle really quick, and this is super easy to work with. You only need one of these, and I'm going to go ahead and click ungroup really quick, and I'm going to show you this one is just slightly smaller than the full size. So we're going to work with this one so we have a little bit of an edge around our Waterslide decal, so you can get rid of the black one. Now this one has a lot more parts because they offer you the option to cut this cute design that you can use with it, but we are not going to use that part. We are just going to use the top ball part. So in order to do that, I want to ungroup this, and I'm going to pull all of my pieces parts apart. But we need to ungroup this second one as well, so go ahead and ungroup that. And now you can see all of your different parts that you have for your little crystal ball. Now, if we take these black pieces off, it's going to make holes in our ball, and I don't want that because we're going to make this more of like a snow globe design. So we're going to go ahead and select this whole thing and just click on weld. That way those holes are not there. We don't need any more of this stuff. We could possibly use this. You know what? Maybe we will. Maybe we'll put some vinyl down just to make like the base. And I don't really love the holes that are in this, to be honest with you. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is contour out these little spaces. I just don't like them. You can totally leave them if you like them, but I'm just not a fan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can absolutely add something to the bottom here if you'd like, but I'm just going to leave it like this. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to do this one as a vinyl piece, and then we'll do these two as print and cut. So what we'll do now is choose our photo. Now I have one photo I for sure want to use, which is going to be our Disney castle. And I'm going to do that one in our scalloped circle because that's going to give me kind of the most bang for my buck because the castle's kind of huge. So I'm going to move this to the front. So I right click on it and click send to front. And what that does is it's going to help me figure out how big I can make my scalloped circle so that I can fit the castle and the partner statue within it. Once you've sized it, select both items and click on slice. You can go ahead and move all these extra pieces off, and this is the part that we want to make sure that we keep. You can get rid of your orange circle now, and you can get rid of this extra back piece, because this is going to be what we print out. Now, for this globe, we can do anything we want into it, but again, I'm such a Disney gal that I kind of want to do something Disney related. So let me see if we have any other like things loaded that we could use that might look really fun in there. If you were doing like a snow globe, you could totally do like something floating in it. I'm not sure that I have a whole lot of Disney stuff. Here, let's do this one. This is just my Olaf photo, which would be cute. So again, you'll want to resize it, and you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want, but obviously this photo is way too big to fit any of us into this circle. So let's go ahead and again, send this to the front, and I'm going to, if you can click the right button, send to front, and that way it'll show you about where you can fit your design. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I don't really care if it captures our whole self. I just want most of my face and his face. So that looks pretty good. Go ahead and click on slice. Now, a quick tip when you're making these is the more colorful the background, the better it's going to look, because the glitter is going to show through this background. It looks really pretty here because it looks like little stars, and this is just going to add a nice fun color. So again, we don't need this part. We're going to keep this because we're going to cut this on vinyl. We're going to print both of these little pieces. Now, a quick tip is if you are going to use the Waterslide paper, use as much of it as you can. So make some extra pieces, things like that, if you've got other things that you want to print and cut on Waterslide. So I'm going to go ahead and upload another thing just to make a quick cut of, let's use this little panda. Now I know he comes across giant, so he's going to be a minute before he loads. And like I said, you just want to make kind of some different images that you can kind of take up space with. So we'll use this little panda. I don't know what I'll use him on. Maybe a candle, maybe a tumbler, lots of options. And you just want to kind of try to fill your page as much as you can. That way you're not wasting a ton of space. So you can just kind of add whatever you want. Now let's go ahead and insert these flowers. I think these are absolutely gorgeous. Again, they're going to load really, really big. Do not want them that big. I always just size them down by using the sizing section right up here. And then with this one, I'm not going to want it to cut all the way around all those little tiny pieces. So I need to save it, flatten it to a shape. I'm just going to use a square. And all I'm going to do is just make sure I cover the whole design with the square. And again, I'm only doing this so that I don't waste paper. I'm not a big paper waster. So you want to change your square to the color white. And then you need to select both of these items and click flatten. If you don't flatten your item, it's going to cut all these teeny tiny little white pieces out, and you do not want that. So that should fill up our paper pretty decent. So let's click make it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is going to bring up all of your printed pieces, and actually it fits way too much. So we are going to get rid of something. We're just going to go ahead and cancel and get rid of something. Sometimes if you have something that's too big, like this is pretty big, so I think I'll size it down a bit, and then it should fit everything on there. Again, I just do this so I don't waste paper. That works perfectly. We will use this. So this is what it's going to cut out. You can see it's pretty easy to do. The print and cut is super easy, and then it has our second piece, which is our snow globe. So we're going to go ahead and send this to the printer. I need to turn my printer on. You guys ask me 100 times every time I do videos like this what printer I have. It is a Canon Pixma MG 3022. It's just a standard inkjet printer. There's nothing fancy about it, but it works really well for this stuff. So what you're going to do is click on continue, click on send to printer. Leave your bleed on because that is going to prevent any of the white or clear parts from cutting from your design. You want your design to look nice and full, and then I'm going to click Use System Dialog. The reason that you do this is so that you can set your printer to print on a high quality print. So we're going to click Print, and it brings up this little box. Now what you want to do is click Preferences, and down here where it says Print Quality, change that to High. Click OK, and then from here you're going to click Print. If you're working with water slides, I highly recommend making sure that you have a rear feed printer. Some printers with the tray feeds, they tend to get stuck with the thicker paper, and the Waterslide is a relatively thick paper. So we're going to go ahead and print this on my printer, and then I'm going to show you guys how to seal this so that your ink does not run. Sealing your Waterslide is super important, so you want to let it dry just for a couple minutes from your printer, and then I use a Rust-Oleum triple thick glaze, but most clear sealers will work really well. Now, because I can't go outside right now, it's a little too wet out there, it's raining, I'm going to do this in here, and all I do is I just put it in a box with sides on it, and then I just gently spray it, and you're going to do 3 coats just like this. Make sure your room is ventilated. For this step, you're going to need a couple of things. I recommend a silicone mat. You're going to need some glitter. We are using Oyster by StarCraft. We are going to need some UV resin. I will link all this stuff below for you guys. It's super easy to find. A silicone brush of some sort. I always have my pin pen or an X-Acto knife because you need to peel off the protective backing. And then I have this handy dandy little tool, and that helps keep any of the resin from going into your hole. You don't have to use that. I don't always use them, but it's a nice tool to have. So what we're going to do first is you're going to peel off the backing. Just from one side of this, you don't need to do both sides, just one side because you don't want to accidentally scratch the other side. You want to pay attention if you have a blank that has a hole that isn't centered, because some of the blanks do have holes that are not centered. So you'll want to make sure that you're glittering the opposite side that you're going to put your Waterslide on. So what I'm going to do now is take my UV resin, and I'm actually only going to do one of these at a time because I have a really small light and it doesn't really fit much under it. And you're just going to squeeze out some UV resin. And remember, you can always add more resin if you need to. So don't think that just because you didn't put enough down the first time that you won't have enough. So what you'll do now is take your resin and you just want to move it to the edges of your blank. And you want to be very careful. You don't want to put a ton down. And when you have something that has a lot of edges like this, you just want to be very cautious and careful to make sure that you're not overfilling. This is definitely something that does take some practice, and the more you do it, the more you will learn how much resin you really need to use. There's not an easy way to really measure it out because each blank is going to be different. But you just want to make sure you have enough that it sits nice and level. And like I said, you can always add more if need be. But what I do is I try to pile it kind of in the middle, let it kind of sort itself out. It'll flatten itself out. And as it's flattening itself out, I am moving the edges of it just to the edges of my blank. Again, being careful not to spill over the edge. And I will be honest, I'm still not absolutely perfect at this, but I try really hard. And every once in a while, I do get some overspill. And it's kind of annoying, but most of the time you can clean it up pretty easily as long as you are careful. So we're just going to continue all the way around this. And once you get over towards the hole, you'll want to be really careful. This is the other reason I use a silicone mat. It makes it really easy to turn your design without having to physically turn it, because it's hard for me to do this in like a backwards motion. Now I can see that my resin is getting a little close to the hole. So what I want to do is I'm going to take some of that resin that's getting kind of close to going into the hole and just sort of spread it out a little bit. And again, just making sure that I'm getting all the way to my edges without overspilling. Then what we get to do is sprinkle on the glitter. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. That is pretty easy. Again, it does take a little bit of practice. So you just want to make sure that your UV resin is sitting fairly level, that you don't have any super low spots. And you can do that by just kind of getting eye level with it and checking for any divots. But I don't have any in this one. I think I did a pretty good job. The reason I use a silicone mat as well is because once that UV resin cures, you can just crack it right off by turning your mat and twisting it. So again, we are using oyster. Now you'll want to think about a lighter colored glitter when you do something with Waterslide, especially the clear, because the clear needs to be able to have some light go through it. And if you do something too dark, you're going to end up losing your photo. So what I'm doing now is just going around my blank and tapping on my glitter. Again, this is more of a white iridescent, so it's a really light glitter. So I'm just going to tap on a bunch of this. And then we're going to let this sit for a little while before we cure it to allow that glitter to soak in to the UV resin. I found after doing these a bunch that really seemed to work best was to let it sit. So we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes and soak in any of that glitter. Now that we've let the glitter soak in, we're going to use a UV light, and this is going to help cure our UV resin. I turn mine on to the infinity time, and then I do mine for about 4 minutes. Depending on the wattage of your UV light, you may have to do less time or more time, but this one takes about 4 minutes to cure. So I'm going to let this cure, and when we come back, I'll show you how to put the next layer of UV resin on. Now that we've let that cure, I'm going to go ahead and move this off really quick. And I'm just going to kind of make sure any of the loose glitter that might be stuck to the sides is off. And I'm going to use this handy dandy little vacuum to vacuum up this extra glitter. If you have a lot, you can put it back into your jar. There's not much here, so I'm just going to do a quick little cleanup. This guy is the best thing I've bought off Amazon in a while. I'll link him below, but it's just this little desk vacuum, and it works super well. Look at how good that did cleaning up that glitter. A lot of the glitter that's still on there is stuck in UV resin, so we're going to go ahead and do that. That just is more like, for me, I just like to clean that up before I do my next step. So now we're going to add another layer of UV resin. The reason that we do this is because this isn't fully smooth. It's got like a rough texture just from the glitter. And it helps if there's any loose glitter sitting on top of it. You want to make sure that you get that kind of covered up. But this is just going to give it a nice glassy look, and it really looks really nice once you're done. Now that the Waterslide has dried, we are ready to cut it. So what I do is I put it on a green mat. Make sure your mat's relatively sticky. It doesn't have to be crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and load this. Now I cut my Waterslide on medium cardstock so that way it cuts all the way through. I'm going to let you guys watch this because it's going to read this registration box, which is the black line around it. And then it will cut out around all of our designs. Pay close attention because it's going to cut around the outside of the bear, and then it'll cut around a square around our flowers, and it'll cut around the outside of our scallop circle and an outside of our circle. That way you guys kind of get an idea of how print then cut works. Now that it's done, we're going to go ahead and unload it. I'm going to slide my machine back, and we will peel the back part off, and everything that it cut around will stay on our mat. Go ahead and put that to the side, get it out of the way. So like I said, see how it cut the square around this, and then it cut around the bear and these? The square is needed if you have something that has like a lot of little tiny pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and peel all this off. And what I do is I just bend my mat back just a little bit so I can get on along the edge of my decal. Now, like I said, I print extra stuff so that I don't waste a ton of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and get my bowl of water ready because you do need a bowl of water, and I'm going to show you guys how to apply these. I'm going to go ahead and do these one at a time. So I have a bowl of warm-ish water, and all I'm going to do is put my decal in there, and you'll see it'll curl up. Make sure it doesn't fully curl on itself, and then you just want to make sure all the parts of it are wet, and you're going to let that sit for just a couple of moments. It should start to slide off, hence Waterslide. Take a little bit of water, just on your fingers, fine, and just get that blank nice and damp. You don't want it too soaking wet, but you do want a little bit of wetness on there. And you'll note that we don't have a hole in our Waterslide. We'll have to create our own, but that's totally okay, easy to do. So you'll see, and I don't know how you guys can see it, but my Waterslide is coming off of my backing. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull this out very carefully, because you can see it's sliding around and I don't want to waste too much time. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that I get my water slide off of my backing. So you're just going to hold it on to your design, your acrylic blank here. Now I do have a bit of a funky spot right here where it kind of folded up on itself. So I'm going to just try to use my pin pen. Probably better if I leave it sitting on the table and just sort of unfold it very, very carefully. You want to do this super careful. Sometimes that'll happen if it decides that it's going to fold in on itself. So now why it's called water slide is you can slide it around on your blank a little bit and get it where you want it on your acrylic blank. You want to get this so there's no bubbles in it anywhere. I think that looks pretty good. While it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and poke the hole. And I'm just using my pin pen to poke the hole. And then I'm just going to kind of make sure that it didn't slide too much in any way. That looks pretty good. So then what I'll do is I just take a rag, and you want to make sure that it's a clean rag, and I just dab off some of the water. I'll lift this up too because a ton of water gets under it, and you want to make sure that you get a lot of that excess water off of it and out of it. And you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of bubbles or anything like that. You want to make sure that as you are drying it off, you're not moving your water slide too much, because it will move a bit as you're doing this, and you just want to make sure you get any kind of bubbles or imperfections off of it. But you see it does slide around like a lot. So we're going to let that sit for a little bit. While that sits, I'm going to move this over to the side and let that sit. And I'm going to show you how to do this other one that we didn't put glitter on. So there's two options. You can either do it on the side with the vinyl, or you can do it on the opposite side. I'm going to do it on the side with the vinyl. So again, do the same thing. This is still pretty warm water, so you'll be able to drop that in. Just put a little bit of water. I put a little too much on that last one. So I just put a little bit, and then I'll swipe it, my hand across it usually, just to make sure it's not soaking wet, but that there's a little water so that your water slide can move easier. Let this soak for just a moment or two. You'll see it starts to flatten out. When it starts to flatten out is when it'll start to remove from your backing. This one looks like it is ready to go. It doesn't take very long at all. So now what we're going to do is just take our picture and just slide the backing off of it. And this one worked really, really, really well. Again, it's super wet, so that's just something to keep in mind when you do this, that you are going to get everything pretty gosh darn wet. So you want to take, again, just take a rag. That's all I do. I just dab off some of that water. You want to get as much excess water out of it as you can. Make sure you don't have any wrinkles or bubbles, which that's why partially you want to make sure you get a lot of the water off. And again, you can just use a rag. I'm just using an old t-shirt, which isn't super absorbent, but it totally does the job, so it's fine. And then, like I said, you kind of want to slide it around a little bit, because as you dry it, it's going to slide. And you just want to make sure that it is resting where you want it to. You don't want to rub it. You just want to dab it. You're going to let these sit and dry by themselves without doing anything to them for a little while. Usually I let them sit for about 40 minutes, but it just depends. Be on the lookout if you have any pets or anything that there's no dog hair stuck to it, because dog hair does like to stick to it. So there's that one. I'll remove the backing, and then it's going to be really cool because it'll be see-through. And we will put UV resin over this to make sure that that stays nice and secure. And then this one is still really wet because it's a really big one. But that's what that one's going to look like. And again, we'll put UV resin on top. It really brings out the picture and really makes it look beautiful. We're now ready for our last coat of UV resin. This coat is going to go over your water slide, and I'll do this one as well. But we'll start with this one. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a lot of room under my light. Got my other one curing in the corner. Now, one thing, if you're going to do more than one at a time, make sure that your UV light is far enough away from the one that you're working on that none of that light is touching it, because UV resin will cure with just the smallest amount of UV light on it. here are our finished blanks. I love how they came out. They are so much fun. I do still need to attach the hardware to them, but I like to let mine sit for a day or two before I do that, just to make sure everything is fully cured. So this is one side of the glittered blank, and it's really fun because you can see it just a little bit through that. And then this is the other side with the castle. I think this looks so cool. The castle really looks 3D, and that glitter really shines through. And then this one, this is the side with the UV resin, and this is the side without. Like I said, you can always add UV resin if you decide to, and you can add glitter to one side. It is up to you. But this one, I'm just gonna leave with this side plain and the UV resin on this one. I just think it is so super fun. I hope you guys had a fun time learning how to use Waterslide decal paper on your acrylic blanks. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's a totally free way to help support my channel and support what I do. Have a great day and happy crafting.